Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, everyone. I am AJ, and I am delighted and excited to be your host for our pilot episode for Patch. Okay, Patch is PICQS APC Talks channel aiming to provide overviews about chartered and certified professionals' APC journey, PICQS structured trainings, and every quantity surveyor's road to becoming QS professionals to maximize their career potential. For those who are not so familiar about PICQS, Philippine Institute of Certified Quantity Surveyors is an all-Filipino QS organization with a global reach. In a span of nearly a decade, PICQS has formed 12 chapters around the globe in Philippines, UK, UAE, Oman, Qatar, Bahrain, KSA, North America, Singapore, New Zealand, Australia, and our most recent formed chapter, BIM Indochina. Our members are mostly QS trained engineers, architects, and other allied profession practicing the quantity surveying globally, and we have structured trainings to patch up the required competencies towards exponential career growth. To share with you more about APC and the series of talks that we are going to have, I would like to call in our co host for this afternoon, a product of PICQS structured training, chartered and certified professional of RICS and PICQS respectively, a member of PMLA or PICQS Mentors League Assessment, also all the way from Singapore, Mr. Silver De La Rosa. Hi, Silver.
Oh, hello AJ. Thank you for having me as your co-host. Good day to you and to all our members from our 12 strong chapters, and also to our viewers around the world. Indeed, PICQS is here to patch up our way towards professional growth, and I can attest to that on a personal level. I can say that I owe my professional success to the organization, and for that, we here at Patch are here to impart you what we have learned from our APC journey, and to those who are aspiring to be professional QS as well.
Okay, it's really nice to have you here virtually through Patch, and allow me to thank you for the numerous contributions that you have rendered to our growing organization all these years. So we will be talking about APC a lot in this channel. So why don't you give all of us an overview? What is APC?
Okay, APC, or the Assessment of Professional Competence, ensures that candidates are competent and meet high standards of professionalism required to become chartered or certified quantity surveyor. The APC is based on candidates achieving a set of requirements and competencies. These are a mix of technical and professional practice, interpersonal, business, and management skills. Completing the APC and the final assessment interview successfully leads to a corporate membership for PICQS, and if you are carrying out your APC under RICS, it will also lead to professional membership. After that, you may be able to use the most sought after postnominals, which are MPICQS and MRICS respectively.
Agree. I also have my share of professional growth through PICQS and its structured trainings. So behind PICQS, there are foundations and pillars where we owe to what PICQS is today. And our special guest today can attest to that. Why don't you do the honor to introduce our guest speaker?
Oh, you know, AJ, I'm very excited with our guest for today. More so that he agreed to kick off our pilot episode. Our guest is a very distinguished person not only in PICQS community, but in the industry as a whole. He has a quiet number of accolades under his belt. He is a member of prestigious organizations such as the Chartered Institute of Building, the Australian Institute of Quantity Surveyors, a corporate member of Philippine Institute of Certified Quantity Surveyors, and the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, where he is not only a chartered member, but an APC assessor as well. Currently, he is working as an associate director at Line Site in Dubai and supervise a multitude of high-profile projects like Abu Dhabi Westin Resort Hotel, Ferrari World in Abu Dhabi, and Terminal 3 of Dubai International Airport, that is to name only a few. I could take pleasure in introducing our guest for the entire duration of the show, but I know AJ that you, as well as our audience, are very much eager to meet him. Therefore, without further ado, let us welcome our PICQS National President, Mr. Enrico John Chavez. John, welcome to the show.
Hi,
Thank
John. Welcome.
Hello, good afternoon or good day to all. Hi, AJ and Silver. Thanks for having me here. I'm glad to be your first victim.
So, how are you and how's the current situation there in Dubai, given this pandemic and everything?
Right. Okay. Honestly, the situation is not really that good. Yeah. Several lockdowns have been happening again. Yeah. With a number of countries have implemented some border restrictions. In the country, federal employees have been mandated to get vaccinated. On the other hand, private companies have also been encouraging their staff to get vaccinated as well. I myself have already been vaccinated last week. So, but overall, I'm hoping that the rollout of this vaccine will bring us back to our normal lives. Yeah.
I hope so too. Yes, we haven't had our dose of the vaccination yet here in Singapore, but yes, things are going on smoothly, and I think we are going to be the next in line for this to receive the vaccine. Silver.
Oh, John, thank you for breaking the ground for Patch and becoming our first guest, or as you said, victim. And thank you for being here as a speaker to share about the assessment of professional competence, or what we commonly known as APC.
Pleasure. Yeah. Pleasure.
Okay. So, John, you are an associate director for Linesight, an accredited assessor for RICS, and most probably you're also an assessor for the PICQS APC and the national president of Philippine Institute of Certified Quantity Surveyors. So, how is your schedule so far?
Oh, okay. That's a tough question, actually. We just started, yes. So anyway, I think first of all, yeah, I'm happy that I'm an assessor of ICS, but I think for the PICQS own APC, I will be part of the regulatory body. So I'm not going to be part of the assessment team. Yeah, that's my plan, just to not to and sorry, to maintain integrity of our own APC. Yeah, in terms of my schedule, I think it's all about time management and how we can utilize the technology, especially nowadays, that you can take a phone call or even a meeting, even while I'm driving. Yeah, so I think overall, I make sure that my schedule is all in my calendar, just to make sure that I don't miss any important meetings, especially this event, yeah, this session that we're having now.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Indeed, a schedule is a must for any of us here now that we are,
Absolutely.
adulting and all. So we need to manage our time wisely. Okay, so Silver.
Oh, indeed. Technology right now come in handy when it comes to scheduling. And AJ, you have mentioned about John's appointment as an assessor. Why don't we dig a notch deeper into the technical aspect on how they evaluate the APC candidates?
Agreed. Okay, so for that, let us have the next segment of this program where we are going to have a detailed look about APC or Assessment of Professional Competence. Okay, so there you go. John, could you tell us more about Assessment of Professional Competence or APC?
Yeah. So just as what Silver has mentioned earlier, so APC is more of assessing an individual's competence before he can be granted post-nominal or being called as a chartered surveyor. For us as PICQS, we are aiming to have our members to get certified. Yeah. So our own APC will be as strict as other professional bodies, and making sure that they are or they are achieving the right level of standards as a professional before they can go and practice their services to their clients.
Correct. So there are a number of professional bodies around the globe, and PICQS is one of them. And I understand that we have this. That's the reason that we have this assessment of professional competence is to gauge the level of professionalism that each quantity surveyor has. And so we have. Let's go and dive deeper about the competencies of assessment of when we do the assessment of professional competence.
Yeah.
So let me share this slide with all of you. Okay. So is there an hierarchy, or let's say there are different stages, or is there an hierarchy that demonstrate what you have mentioned about these competencies? So there are stages, I believe so.
Yes, yeah. So in essence, like in our pathway, QS in construction, there are about 18 competencies that you have to write about. And this differs, or it varies between competencies, but all of the technical competencies must achieve up to level 3. And as mentioned here, level 1 is only an understanding of how you gain the knowledge and the understanding about a particular subject. Level 2 is applying that knowledge and in your professional career, how you go about doing your work based on the understanding that you have. And the level 3 is all about providing advice to your client. So these are the sort of the hierarchy of the competencies that we will be discussing today.
So there are really a lot of levels that we have to go through. We take it as levels 1 to 3, but I believe that in a deeper sense, the demonstration of how we have gone through all these 3 levels is a different story. Okay, so why don't we take
Yeah.
a look about what these competencies are? Okay, so we have here in our screen mandatory competencies. It's required levels for quantity surveying and construction.
Yeah. So in terms of mandatory competency, so in RICS, there are several pathways that a professional could apply. So for us, it's QS in construction, but there is also, for example, facilities management, project management, building surveyor. So those are several of the pathways, yeah, that RICS are offering. But in terms of mandatory competencies, all of these pathways will have to achieve the required level of understanding for the mandatory competencies. For example, on you're showing here, level 3 ethics. A candidate should really achieve up to level 3, how an advice was given ethically to their client. So when you talk about your clients, it's not just the end client. Your colleague can also be your client. Yeah. So providing the right level of understanding and the ethical procedure that you must practice is already an advice to your colleague. Yeah. In terms of level 2, as mentioned earlier, it's all about practicing, yeah, actual practice of what you have learned in level 1. Yeah, so these are the 3 categories, and you can see here that most of the mandatory competencies are only required to achieve up to level 1.
Yes, I we can see that the level 1 competencies comprise about, let's say, 6 items that we need to demonstrate that we have knowledge about. Say accounting principles. I remember taking some courses just to refresh me about the basic accounting principles. Since the last accounting that I've gone through was in high school, was in middle school. How about you, Silver? What was when you were demonstrating your competencies, which part do you think was the hardest among these three levels?
Oh, I think the hardest part is an ethics because you have to demonstrate that you have done ethically on how you have demonstrated to give advice ethically to your colleagues, and to everyone. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then we are talking more about this mandatory competency. By the term itself, it implies as mandatory, you must have it. So how about the technical competencies and optional competencies? How would an APC candidate address those to fit the standards? And also, for the benefit of everyone that are watching us, can you clarify, Jan, if I can still consider myself as a professional QS if I do not possess full knowledge of any of these competencies?
Sure. Yeah. So as I said earlier, the different pathways require you to demonstrate different level of technical core competencies. Yeah. Mandatory, as you said, is mandatory. Yeah. As a professional, you can even see here the list of competence that you have to achieve. Regardless if you're applying for an RICS or PICQS membership, these are competencies that you require as a professional, yeah, especially ethics. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's number one. Number two is, from my
Right.
end, number two is health and safety. And number three is sustainability. And as you know, how sustainability plays an important role in our daily lives today. Yeah. Going towards the technical core competencies, yes, I agree with you. I don't think that any candidate can be considered or classified as a chartered surveyor without achieving the right level of understanding and competence for these six subjects. Yes, so these are very important, especially for us QS and construction professionals.
So these are the basic ones that we need to master because we need to reach level 3, and we have to demonstrate that we have given ample advice to when we are rendering our services in these fields. Let's say commercial management, construction technology, contract practice, procurement and tendering, project finance, quantification and costing. When we were having this GCPD number 1 last 23rd of January, it was surprising that the polls came out. uh they don't really, I mean, not most of us know what QS really is all about or what transpires when you're executing or when you're practicing quantity surveying. So it's really good that we have this outline. And then with PICQS APC, we have ethics as one competency separately. And then we have the basic competencies. And then we have the core competencies. So these core competencies is the technical competencies. I can see the parallel, alignment of all these APC competencies that are we are talking about, whether it's with RACS or whether it's with PICQS. And the most important thing is how we are going to render our service professionally, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, indeed.
and up to level three. Yeah,
Up
so
to level
up
3.
to correct. So how do you go about advising your client? For example, in contract practice, how do you advise up to level three? So as a professional, we deal with daily issues about about the construction industry, and it is
Mhm.
important for us to provide or to have an understanding for us to be able to provide our clients an advice up to level three. And as you
Mhm.
said, ethics in all aspects of this six subjects are also relevant for the technical competencies. Yeah.
Agree. So while on mandatory competencies, we are only required to demonstrate level 1 and level 2 and level 3 for ethics. When we go to technical and core competencies, we have to demonstrate the advising part. I mean, how we have advised our clients or our I mean, our superiors when we do our work. Let's say, for example,
That's
John,
correct.
we have on the part of procurement and tendering. So what is the level when you say you have exercised level 3? How are you going to demonstrate it?
Um, so in our work, for example, when you're completing a tender report, yeah. So the tender report itself is considered as level three because you're advising your client as to whom the project can be awarded after reviewing the bid submission of the contractors as a good example. Um, so that is an aspect that you can consider as your level three whenever you're writing your ABC submission.
I see. Okay, so let's talk about. I'm quite interested here about when you mentioned the commercial management. This is for contractors, and when you are under a consultant, you have to demonstrate level 3 for design economics and cost planning. Could you tell us more about this?
Sure, yeah. So as a professional working with contractors, most often they do not do cost planning. So it's really unfair for the candidate to ask them and submit up to level three or providing an advice to a client if they haven't had an experience on that particular matter. So in essence, those are the factors that a candidate must consider. What predominantly their experience is more of having a contractor background, then you have to write level three of commercial management. Whereas those who are working with consultants and clients, they can write design economics instead of commercial management. Yeah. Um, and then these subjects or these topics and competencies can also be written as part of their optional competencies. So they can only write up to level two, meaning that they can demonstrate up to the level of understanding that they have achieved in the professional career.
Okay, so optional competencies. We
Correct.
have, I think I saw this conflict avoidance, management, and dispute resolution in a separate slide when we were talking about technical and mandatory competency.
Yeah.
So, how are we going to separate having it either or in under optional competency, or would we go to, are we going to demonstrate it under, let's say, the technical one, the core technical core one?
So when you talk about the mandatory competencies, there are several subjects or topics here that you can note as part of the mandatory, which is sustainability, conflict avoidance. Uh, yeah, and those two competencies, based on mandatory competency submission, you are required to submit up to level one. Yeah. But when you select that to as your optional competency, you have to demonstrate up to level two, meaning that your experience is more suitable to demonstrate a level two understanding. Yeah. But
I
in
see.
terms of in terms of the technical core competencies, the selection is between having a design economics as your level two or core commercial management as your level two. So it purely depends on the experience the candidate has, yeah, prior to submission of his or her submission of the APC write up.
Okay, so if I'm writing about this dispute resolution and I want to demonstrate level 3, for example, I want to demonstrate like this is my bread and butter, I've been doing this, and I am only allowed to demonstrate it until level 2 under optional. Under
Correct.
technical core competency, can it fall under, let's say, contract practice or commercial management?
As a subtopic, so in essence, you will see a number of subjects included in each of these competency list. Yeah, and you have to demonstrate at least half. Me as an assessor or even as a counselor, I'm suggesting to candidates that they achieve at least half of the listed subjects within a competency, and making sure that they properly demonstrate their understanding of those aspects.
I see. So for silver, when you were doing this APC, when you were doing your APC journey, by the way, silver will be our next on the spot our
Team,
The
next
next
guest
victim,
for
yeah.
our next APC.
and
Yes, we will be having him to know more about his APC journey. But I was just curious, given all this list for level 3, was there any item amongst these six that you had to cope up or you had to ask, what did you do if you think that you haven't gone until level 3? What did you do?
first, if I haven't done anything, let's say up to level 3, the first thing you have to do is to see to it that you will have a chance to demonstrate this level 3. I have to talk to my line manager and discuss with him that can you give me a chance on how to demonstrate this type of competencies. Can you give me additional load of work? For me, I don't. It doesn't matter if it is an additional work, as long as I can demonstrate and I can experience this type of competency. The important thing is that you are going to understand what is this competency all about, and you will be able to demonstrate how this competency works out, and will be able to give a reasoned advice for this particular competency.
Yeah,
Agree. Yes.
yeah.
Mm.
I think to
Jo-
add,
yes, go ahead.
adding to that point, yeah, as an assessor, most of the time I'm seeing write-ups and submission that somehow, if I'm reviewing their submission in, for example, in contract practice, they really haven't achieved a level 3, yeah, understand, or level 3 understanding of the contract practice competency, and most of the time they're writing up to sorry, their write up is up to level 2, which is contract administration. So these topics will have to be differentiated, because um, contract practice is totally different with contract administration. Yeah. And there's a bit of a confusion between these two elements.
So
Agree.
how are we going to differentiate this contract practice with contract administration?
Sure. So contract administration is, when you administer a contract on site, as a good example.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that is practicing. Yeah. And in the contract practice, um, the way that you advise your client of aspects that can be included within a contract. For example, calculation of an LAD, or what will be better for the project. Will it be a project without the retention, and ask the contractor to submit a retention bond? So those are sort of the differences, yeah. Whereas most of the time I'm seeing submission that demonstrates contract administration rather than expressing themselves as part of the, or writing a submission as part of the contract practice.
Okay, so contract practice is more of being able to contribute to a contract, like what will
To
be
preparing a
included
contract,
in a
right? Yeah,
contract, what will be
correct,
considered, how will it
correct.
be worded, how will it be worded. So it's like drafting a contract and how you'll become part of it on the advising on level 3.
So,
Whilst
but,
contract
but
administration is you're already administering the contract. The contract is already existing and you
yeah,
are going through the process. So if, for example, I have a dispute and I have done the exercise of um, evaluating the disruption claim of a subcontractor, this is contract administration.
correct, because
Am I
you're
right?
referring to an existing contract, yeah. So
Yes,
to
referring to an
draft,
existing contract.
correct. So drafting a contract is not our forte. It's not us
Yes.
who's really drafting a contract. But as a professional, our understanding of the different forms and standards available when you advise your client, for example, using FIDIC in his project, then that's the advice. Well, obviously, you have to take a number of, or you need to consider a number of factors before you advise your client, yeah, of using a certain FIDIC standards, yeah. If the
Okay.
client is taking ownership of the design, then we go to the FIDIC Red Book, which is more of a traditional approach. Yeah, and then that's the
Mm-hmm.
advice of your that you can give to your client. You cannot just inform your client that, look, I've used the yellow book on my previous project. This is perfect for your development. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not as simple as that. Yeah, you have to consider a number of factors and different parameters. Yeah.
Agree. And that since you are exposed, you have a background in civil engineering, you have gone through a number of construction projects, you would have an inkling like which parts do we need to put in. And if you're going to suggest, let's say, FIDIC contract, are there clauses that we need to take out? Or are there clauses that we need to specify under the appendix part or replace? Is it
You
is it
can, yeah,
so that's contract practice.
you can suggest, you can make a suggestion, yeah, because ultimately it has to be checked by the client's legal team and making sure that the
Agree.
legal team have fully incorporated the changes, because one clause in some cases are linked to another clause within the standard contract. So you just don't update one clause without looking for the other.
Agree.
I mean,
Yeah, agree.
Yes, thank you very much for the insights. We are getting there. I mean, we are getting a closer look at the mandatory technical and the technical core and technical optional competencies. Okay, Silver, do you have anything to ask John at this point?
So at this point, it is amazing to know that you've been through the entire process from APC candidate to a chartered professional quantity surveyor. Now that you are an RICS APC assessor. So looking back to these experiences, what are the changes in perspective between John as an APC applicant, John as a chartered surveyor, and then the John who is now an assessor?
okay. Look, I was not supposed to sit my APC when I started. Row 4 ako nung college, yeah. So in essence, I lack the drive, yeah. And I don't even think that I have established the right professional foundation when I started my career, because you know how construction activities in the Philippines, especially if you're working with a tier 3 company, uh, most often you're not at par with the standards that I know today. Yeah, and I can looking back at my experience at that time, visiting the site with my sleepers and visiting the site without the proper PPE. That's in today's world is really an aspect that we wanted to avoid, because we're now acting professionally and making sure that we have the right level of um, safety implemented to projects that we are working on. So that's one example. Um, as a candidate, I was actually one of the first few Filipinos who have applied through the professional experience route. So if I remember correctly, our chair, Ma'am Julie De La Cruz, have excitedly announced this aspect, because it opened up an opportunity for us civil engineers to apply without taking an additional, I think, 400 hours of study. So you just need to demonstrate that you have required or achieved the required level of standards, and use your professional experience for this route. Um, and then we were actually in a training center in Dubai. It's an Alpha 10 training center that we typically use to, for our own CPDs. And at that time, Ma'am Julie called us in the training room, announcing this aspect, and I joined a group which is called Dubai South. Yeah. During that time, I was joining them as a sit-in. So, and then I realized having to spend 4 to 5 hours every Thursday evening. So why don't I pursue this? Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's for my own good, and once it's done, it's done. Yeah. So that actually pushed me on taking the APC seriously. I remember, we have different hosts. Yeah, so we're just doing this group study. I think the first session was held in William Damon's house. So he's our uh, president in chapter president in Australia. Yeah, and then later on, after he moved, we have this group study every Thursday evening in Vladimir Viarda's house. So in essence, we're using our own members' houses in order for us to train ourselves. Yeah. So that actually is the start of my APC journey. Um, I actually failed my first attempt. Yeah. So failure is for me is something that challenged me. Although it took me a while before I sat my second APC, because upon receiving my referral report, I think one of the competency was graded level 0. So just imagine me having uh, to demonstrate nothing during an APC interview is really tough, and but that's actually part of the journey. Yeah. So for me, yes, it took time, but it challenged me. Yeah. And after a year, I sat my APC, and I guess everything is a history. Yeah. Um, yes, so that's my journey. And then as a professional, so after I got chartered, I was promoted from a project surveyor to a senior project surveyor with ACOM. And then I have to move to a new firm, line side. So from line side, after I joined them as a senior cost manager, I was promoted to an associate, and then an associate director. Within a span of 2 years. So I think I was able to demonstrate the level of perhaps the confidence that they need. Yeah. And I suppose it's more about how you present yourselves to your client. Yeah. But I haven't, I have getting chartered is also difficult, because you really have to demonstrate that you are sort of deserving of that 5 letter nominal. Is it five? Yeah, MRCs. Yeah, so 5 letter nominal, post nominal. You have to really demonstrate that you deserve it. So after that, I have applied with professional membership again with CIOB and then AIQS. So that's actually my journey maybe as a professional. Yeah. And as I work with line side with several of the projects we have in the region. I think it's more about the exposure I'm getting, and the different professionals I'm meeting, and I'm learning every day. To be perfectly honest with you, as an assessor, I think I'm also fortunate to be sitting on the other side of the fence and seeing myself. Actually, I'm seeing myself from these candidates when I was a candidate myself. So it's really good to be engaged as well on assessing professionals, because I get to meet also other assessors, and chairman of the APC panel, and expanding my network. Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
really good
goodness,
to know. Yeah.
it's a very inspiring story all throughout. You have explained it very well, John. We are very inspired. I'm in awe to be hearing the whole story about your APC journey way back on how you have all started. Those guys that you have mentioned, those names ring a bell to us because right now these guys are the guys that are being have been devoting their time. They are the guys who are our SMEs nowadays in our
Correct.
structured
Yeah.
trainings
Correct.
with PICQS.
Yeah.
So it moved all of you. I mean, the whole experience, you had to train yourselves by yourselves among each other. You have to share all the experiences, all the learning,
Yeah.
right? Just
And
to
help
come
each
up
other. Yeah, help each
and
other,
help each
because we all
other live.
correct. We have one objective. Yeah, and to pass the APC. So if I list out all the names that we have, they're still active members of PICQS, like Ophelia from Canada. So I know that
Mm,
she'll be providing a CPD, and I think next week, or if I'm not mistaken,
yes.
CPD number two will be by Ophelia. So we were reviewing during her time here in the UAE. She was part of this Dubai South group. Yeah.
Mm. It's really nice to hear, and you have laid down the pillars, the foundations of where PICQS is right now, and for that we are very grateful. We don't have to go house to house just to be trained. We don't have to go. I mean, whatever competencies that we lack into, we just have to check when is the next schedule for PICQS structured training, P3T for level one, POP1 for level 2, GAMP for level 3, and there it is. All we have to do is register. So we are very
Absolutely.
grateful.
Yeah.
Yes, because
Actually,
I go ahead, John.
sorry, you mentioned some of our training programs, and I was really fortunate to have been, or I had the opportunity to contribute, especially in formulating these guidelines. Yeah, so I
Yes.
remember that during the time I was presenting this to Chair Julie. Drafts of the guidelines that I have submitted. I think it was really well accepted, and we until now we are using those guidelines, showing that we have done the right foundation in terms of our training programs. Yeah. And then the materials that we are now using to present to our members on each of these training session. Some of them I've been fortunate enough to contribute. So really, I'm really happy to, and I think as an organization, the ambition and the goal that we wanted to um, provide to our members are really I'd say beneficial to us as members of the PICKS.
Yes, indeed. PICQS as a whole has a selfless vision, mission, and objective. And yes, we thank you is not enough. Okay, so we have seen your passion together with the rest of the board of trustees and in driving awareness of QS profession to the Filipino community and enhancing the skills and competencies of the Filipino QS professionals. So, what fuels the fire within you all these years to strive for the betterment of Filipino QS professionals? For one, yes, you have mentioned you have authored a number of modules in our structured trainings for PICQS.
I think I'm inspired by the people that surrounds me. Yeah. So like this session, what you have been doing is really great because you're providing inspiration and motivation to other professional members, not only uh, not only for our own organization PICQS, but also other professionals who are thinking of getting chartered or certified by a QS organization. I'm also inspired by the ambition of PICQS. I think personally, I wanted to be a public servant. Yeah, I think that is my ambition in life. Perhaps following the footsteps of my cousins in third degree cousins in Roa City. But it's more of, um, I guess, I suppose the right mentality is that us as OFWs, yeah, we are ambassadors of our own ways. Yeah. So remember, in meetings that we have been attending, sometimes they don't recognize or they don't recall your name. They recognizes you by your nationality. So for
Yes.
me, I have to put my best foot forward, especially if I'm presenting to a client, because we know that Filipinos, majority of Filipinos are competent to practice their profession, their respective profession, but in some cases they lack the confidence to speak up. Yeah, so for us, it's more of training our members and make them more confident with what they do, because we know that the technical knowledge is there. Yeah, but how for them to express themselves to their client, to their line managers, is something that in some cases lacking. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much for that. And we are also grateful for Chair Julie. I would like to add that we're grateful for this opportunity. The patch is actually her birth project. So thank you very much, Chair Julie, for entrusting this
Thank you.
to us. And thank you, Sir John, for hosting and for being with us on our pilot episode of The Patch. Silver?
Yes, that's very good to know and to hear all those experiences and what drives you through. Those are very uplifting words, John. So for our APC candidates or for our members, would you like to say some words of wisdom to them who are watching us right now?
Yeah, I think it's more of for me. I'd like them to really consider pursuing their professional goals. Yeah, and I wish all our viewers, particularly those who are APC candidates, success in their respective journey. And I'm hoping that by my own experience, I have motivated them because I think for me, you just have to make sure that you're focused with your goal. APC or getting chartered is really tough, but it's doable. Yeah, you just have to dedicate your time and dedicate yourself towards what you want to become. And getting chartered, or maybe if I say failure on your first attempt, like what happened to me, it's not the end of the world. Yeah, the most important aspect is the journey. Yeah, and the APC itself, once you um, passed your APC, is only a validation of your professional competence. Yeah, so don't stop. For me, yes, I was a bit reluctant because of the results that I have received on my first attempt. But it actually challenged me to become a much better person and professional. Yeah. I think to motivate you further, I've supported a number of candidates who are now chartered themselves, including my wife. So, to my knowledge, we are the first Filipino couples who have been granted chartership by RICS. So, that is something that I'm really proud of.
No,
Thank
that's
you.
really good
Thank
to know. Yeah, thank you, John. And congratulations also to Angela, your wife, right?
Yes, thank you.
Congratulations achieving that most coveted post nominals also.
Yeah, yeah.
you.
I know
Agree.
it's tough, and that's why I'm saying it's tough, but it's doable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so for every APC candidate out there, it's not the end of the world in case you get referred. It's always a journey it's always the journey that matters. Okay. So there you have it, our fire starter for Patch PICQS APC Talks channel live through our YouTube channel. This is our very first episode. And if you have any comments or suggestions on how we are going to run the show, please do so. Send us a message and we would greatly appreciate it. So, Silver,
Oh, it's quite short, but we hope that we are able to impart some of our overviews on APC and what are the competencies that we need to cover to be a full-fledged QS professionals. There you go.
ag- agree. So, to close, would you like to have a few words, John, for everybody, for all our viewers and
No,
candidates?
actually, that's it. Yeah. I'm
Okay.
really grateful of the time that you guys have spent, and congratulations on this pilot episode. Thank you again for having me here, and I hope that I've somehow motivated our listeners. Yeah. Today.
You have motivated not just the listeners but myself as well. I'm
Very
already
good.
teary-eyed with with the story that you have shared with all of us. So thank you once again for gracing us with your presence. This won't be will not be a successful pilot episode if you haven't been here. Okay, so thank you again for being with us, and we hope to see more of you as we share more about the first-hand experiences of our corporate members. See you in our next patch session, everyone. Have a good
Thank you.
day.
See you. Have a good day,
Thank
Thank you.
John.
you.
Thank you.
All the best. Stay safe.
Stay safe. Bye.
Bye.